All right, welcome to the First Alert Desk. I'm Maria Moreau. We are going to be following this holiday freeze with you all weekend long, but starting with today, the most severe impacts, temperature drop that is grounds for a dramatic wind chill. So we're going to be following all of that. We're going to be with you all day, both on Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, Apple TV, and Roku TV. Wherever you are watching, drop your comments, let us know what weather questions you have, but we're going to be taking you through everything you need to know. This has already been a very severe weather type of morning. We've seen power outages that I'll show you here in a minute, as well as flight delays and cancellations. A lot of people impacted by this severe weather. I'm going to start by taking you through our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. This is where you can find all of the latest information that you need, including the power outages we're seeing across North Georgia, as well as a full list of the trees that are blocking roads and possibly might have other impact for you. Just line by line, we are listing out fallen trees, power outages. I know some people here at Atlanta News First were talking to me before we jumped on here, letting me know they experienced a power outage in their neighborhood earlier this morning. And that is the case for so many people across Metro Atlanta, across North Georgia, and really throughout the state, as we're seeing. If you wanted more information, we are going to have our First Alert weather team up here shortly at about 10:10. But right now, what we're doing is we're going to take you through everything that we're covering today. Negative wind chills and patchy black ice seen across North Georgia. That is some of the information we'll get into. But for now, what I want to do is take you through a full list of some of the impacts we've seen, starting with some power outages. I'm going to pull up this story for you right here. This is where we've been relaying this information all morning long, and you can see some of that crews responding to power outages. Georgia Power even saying you don't necessarily have to tell them that there is a power outage in your area. They have smart systems in place so that they can be automatically alerted of a power outage and immediately respond. A lot of that response has happened overnight while most of us have been asleep. So large outages just in the 9 o'clock hour in College Park, Lithonia, Ellenwood, Stone Mountain, and Decatur. Before that, looking at Suwannee, Ellenwood, and Stockbridge, Decatur, Lithonia again, Athens. You can see just across Georgia, several houses, several neighborhoods impacted by this. You know, found earlier this morning talking to my colleague, she experienced a power outage, and she said that she actually got an alert on her phone that said the power was turned back on. All of this while she was sleeping overnight. So that tells you how hard these crews are at work, and our First Alert weather team also hard at work, keeping you updated on everything you can expect from the wind chills, from the temperatures that are going to drop, and the impacts that's going to have on you. This is just the beginning. We are expecting this to continue on throughout today, as well as into Saturday and part of Sunday. So we are going to keep you up to date with the minute by minute information that we do receive here in the newsroom. Our field crews have been all across the Metro Atlanta area, across Georgia, just covering these impacts, these fallen trees, as well as power outages. We even have a reporter, Madeline Montgomery, who's at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport all morning long, reporting on the flight impacts, and that is some of which you will see. I'm going to pull up this website here, FlightAware. You can see just some of the impacts just out of ATL. We'll also be talking to a spokesperson with the airport about what travelers should do. A lot of people trying to get out of Atlanta, possibly coming into Atlanta for the holiday weekend. We want to make sure that you have that information handy as well. So a lot to get into. We are going to be together throughout the day, and we want to make sure that you are prepared. It is a First Alert weather day, so keeping you up to date on the outages, the flight impacts, as well as anything else that you need to know as you're planning out the day. But the biggest thing that we've been told from local officials, as well as hear from our meteorologist, is you do not want to be outside at this time. When we talk about dangerous wind chills, we talk about dangerous weather, the risk from long-term exposure to this type of cold is significant. You want to make sure that you, as well as your pet and any other family member, are indoors as much as possible. This is not the day to be out and about, but we will get into that. Our meteorologists, Ella Dorsey, Courtney Jacobazi, both going to be joining us here in about 5 minutes just to answer your weather-related questions. I know a lot of us woke up and were almost surprised by how significant and impactful this weather was, especially the wind. I'm sure a lot of you felt, I felt on the roadway over here. So we'll get into all of that. In the meantime, I'm going to be checking through your questions. Let me know again where you're watching from. Wesley watching from Acworth, thank you so much, as well as what questions you have. Marcus, I do see your question. We'll get you that answer as soon as possible when our meteorologists do join us here on the air. But for now, giving you a full rundown, I wanted to take this time to let you know that you can download the First Alert Weather app. I'll walk you guys through the app, but that is a really great tool if you don't have time to stick around throughout this entire live stream to just get push notifications about any severe impacts in your specific area, as well as what the forecast models are showing. We do hour by hour updates, so every single hour of the day we can predict what's to come and get you prepared, because it's all going to depend on what plans you have today. We want to make sure those plans are indoors, but if you do need to be anywhere, you're traveling, or you're just staying inside, that you're aware of everything that's going on in your specific area. So we'll get into all of that. Donna from Griffin, thank you so much for watching. Again, a really important day, and that's why we want to remain on here with you all day. So I want to open up the floor for you guys to ask your questions and anything that you need to know to plan out what you're doing today. We're going to have that information for you. So here in about 3 minutes, we'll be joining by our meteorologists, Ella Dorsey, Courtney Jacobazi. They're going to be getting into some of the watches and advisories that we're already getting from local officials. I mean, this is something, if you've been following us on Atlanta News First, we've been talking about pretty much all week, talking about the officials that are responding, you know, brining the streets, getting some of the unhoused persons, people who are experiencing homelessness, getting them to a warming center and opening up some warming centers. That's been a real challenge. You know, you talk about Christmas and the holiday weekend, a lot of public spaces that are closed for the holidays, libraries, schools, those usually act as warming centers, but some of them were not made available, so they had to get creative and find as many places that they could set up as those warming shelters. So we'll be giving you a full list of that, as well as talking with our field crews who are out there talking to these impacted community members and getting on the ground experiences from them and bringing that to you live. So we have a lot to get into, and I do believe our meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi here joining us in a moment.
I'm going to switch places with you because for those of you
are
who don't
shorter.
know, TV does magic. I'm only 5'1", so I need the box.
So we are, I mean, you've been talking about this all morning. We have a lot of impacts that we're already seeing, power outages, fallen trees, but what should people know? You know, it's 10:08 at this time as far as the rest of their day. I know you have some graphics you're going to show us.
Right.
So I'll let you do your forecasting. We do have some questions that have already come in.
Awesome, I see.
So I know one from Jonathan as well as Marcus, they were asking how long they should be outside.
Yeah, absolutely. So good morning to everybody. Marcus, Mike. You can keep your ears covered, your fingers and your toes nice and warm, maybe get some hand warmers. Then you can go outside for as long as you like, but any exposed skin, that's what you and I have been talking about, Ella, for 30 minutes. Yeah. If you have, you know, exposed skin, then that can lead to frostbite, hypothermia. So you definitely want to be properly bundled up. You can hang out in the cold as much as you like.
It's almost like being down here in Georgia talking about hypothermia and talking about frostbite. It's hard to think that it's true, like think that it can actually happen.
Right.
But it can actually happen.
Yeah. Oh,
and it will actually happen. I mean, this is the polar vortex, yes. So we got Michael, we got Marcus, good morning Wesley, good morning Angela. A lot of people watching. Yeah. We love it. Joanne. Katrina. Guys, if you have any questions throughout this, let us know. We love that you have tuned in and joined us. Let's see, can we split screen this? Doesn't look like we can. Okay, we want to kind of get into some of the specifics with what to expect through the day today. So we've been warning you for a while now that today is a first alert weather day. You guys know we do first alerts a lot.
Yeah.
Today's a first alert weather day because it's a more significant, dangerous impact, and we've been telling you about that, kind of warning you about that throughout the course of the last, 3-4 days.
Yeah, and our team, we, discussed thoroughly if we're going to issue a first alert, first of all, and then first alert weather day is just another step above that. That's when we think that this is going to put your health and your safety in danger. Something like dangerous cold like this, or something like a severe weather outbreak.
Totally.
But this is what to expect today.
So we've seen gusts all morning up to 50 miles per hour. We've gotten tons of reports of power outages all across Metro. That will continue through the afternoon. We're looking at wind chills below 5 degrees, guys, through the entire day today and really until noon tomorrow. And then a hard freeze. We're looking at possibly 80 hours below freezing here in Georgia, which could cause the concern, for your homes and pipes bursting and all of that, etc.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. When certain demographics are.
Donna says that there's no sound.
I think I fixed it for you. I think one of them was on mute.
Guys, can you hear us?
You can hear the whole thing?
Great,
Okay,
great. We're good to go.
Awesome. Okay,
Listen, we're meteorologists. We're not
IT.
The tech ain't it, all right? But we're gonna get back into it.
Okay, so certain demographics, like in South Florida, their code for buildings and all of the things to keep you properly housed are very different than here for things like hurricanes, because they're more hurricane prone. So you think about places like Montana, Colorado, North Dakota, they have certain structures that are just more built for this kind of cold.
But I'll tell you, Courtney, on Twitter, I'm seeing, tweets from all these meteorologists up in Sioux Falls.
This is kind of cold.
Right.
Yeah.
Like in Montana, and the doors on the inside are
Freezing.
frozen shut. And this is it. This is why.
Negative 38.
Right. In
No
Fargo.
way.
Yesterday in Billings, it was felt like negative 45 degrees, negative 34 in Des Moines. I mean, this is extensive cold. A third of the country is sitting below zero right now, which is just really incredible. And here's a look at the whole system. A blizzard for the Great Lakes region, a sloppy, nasty mess for New England. If any of you are traveling up north, make sure you're checking your flights. Courtney has been looking at the roads today. I know a lot of people are traveling for the holidays. Getting on the roads in Georgia looked really great. I think if you're traveling probably anywhere to the east, to the west, or to the south, you're fine. If you're going through Tennessee, up into Kentucky, you might just want to check the roadways.
Right. I have a couple of friends who actually live in the Louisville area, and it was snowing pretty well up there. So us here in Georgia, we're not used to driving and stuff like that. So if that's where your travels take you, you just need to be really careful on the roadways. Of course, they were probably all treated by trucks.
Totally.
But still going to be something that we're just not used to here. And then you add the wind to it, and that's just going to be, which is really our greatest impact here.
Is the wind, right?
Yeah.
I want to show you a live look at Lake Lanier. If you look at the right of your screen, guys, you can see that there is not smoke.
Steam.
Steam. Wow. Woo! There is steam coming off of the lakefront. That only happens, guys, when the lake is significantly warmer than the air temperature, which is insane.
Yeah.
That the lakefront temperatures are probably 50 degrees warmer than the air temperature, and so you're just getting that extreme evaporation and you're getting steam. You usually only see that up north.
Yeah, that's very not typical
Wild.
for us here. We do have a question, by the way, from Taryn. Should water still be dripping during the day or only at night? For us here now, I mean, we're going to stay below freezing, hard freeze for upwards of 80 hours or something like that?
Yeah, the water should be dripping truly until midday Monday.
Right. Yeah. Your water bill being higher is better than your whole pipe system bursting. Yeah, bursting. Yeah.
Yep. So if you need to drip the pipes, or at least if you don't want to drip them for that long, then cover them with aluminum foil. That's another good option for you.
Right. Something to keep them warm.
Right. Let's talk about the winds. This is your current wind gusts. just incredible. 41 miles per hour in Athens, 29 miles per hour in Atlanta. We saw wind gusts like this, even higher, all morning. And that certainly is the reason for the power outages all across Metro. These winds are going to continue to blow really through Christmas, but they'll be the strongest today. So there is that high wind warning in effect for the higher elevations. Areas like Gilmer County, Towns County, Hiawassee, Blairsville, Dahlonega, you could see winds up to 50 miles per hour. But even in Metro, we saw some wind gusts upwards of 40 or 50 miles per hour. So that wind advisory expires at 10 p.m. today. We think that the max power outages was probably this morning, but we'll continue to see isolated power outages today.
Yeah, especially because the wind, of course, very strong this morning. I mean, we saw multiple spots above 35, 40 this morning, and now it seems like we're kind of in the 20, 30. Still could have 40 this afternoon, but you think of a constant wind that's just battering power lines, battering trees, not only today, but also tomorrow. The trees and the power lines here are going to take a beating.
Totally.
And so trees coming down to lead to more power outages, that's definitely possible.
All it takes is one gust for
Right.
trees to come down. You know what
For
I mean?
sure.
So, and we're going to continue to see it through tomorrow. So I would not be surprised if we continue to see power outages overnight tonight and tomorrow. I will tell you, we've been looking closely at the Georgia power outage map all morning. The power outages will go up to like 110,000, and then they'll quickly go back down to 80,000, and then they'll go up and then down. So that tells you that crews are out there and
they're
they're working fast and diligently, because they know that, like, if you lose power essentially in a few hours, your house is going to be too cold to stay in. So power crews are out there and working really quickly to get your power back on. And you mentioned something really great earlier. You said, you know, give them grace.
Right.
Because they're out there in the freezing cold, polar vortex, trying to help you out.
Yeah, one of my best friends, actually, her husband works for Georgia Power, and he'll be gone for, you know, days and days at a time. So that means that, because they're not only here in Atlanta, they're stationed all over the state, and they'll go where the most need is. And of course, we have the highest population here. And so a lot of crews from other places come here, so they're away from their families on Christmas, trying to put your power back on. So yeah, give them grace, because not only are they in the cold, but they're having to be away from their families during the holidays.
Did you make some Christmas cookies? If your power goes out, bring them some Christmas
hot
cookies.
chocolate.
Hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Well, you can't make hot chocolate if your power's out. You
Go
can
to
make-
Starbucks.
Make cold chocolate. Yeah. Let's talk about current temperatures, guys. Wow, 18 degrees in Atlanta. I think we bottomed out at the airport at 16 like an hour ago or so. So maybe we are starting to climb a little bit. It's 11 degrees in Canton. It's 9 in Blairsville. It's 20 in Athens. When I left my house at 2 in the morning, it was 45 degrees. So temperatures have fallen rapidly and significantly. This is just incredible cold. Then you add the wind, and this is what it currently feels like outside.
Yikes. That's dangerously cold. Yeah.
Big
bitter
time
cold.
yikes.
Yeah.
Big time yikes. Feels like 0 in Gainesville. Feels like 0 in Rome. In the higher elevations, feels like temperatures are between -5 and -10. Even south of the city, look at Covington. Feels like 5. Feels like 8 in Griffin. Really incredible cold that's in place right now. And truly, we're not going to see it get a lot warmer today. So current wind chills in some areas are between 0 and 10 degrees. That's south of Atlanta. You can get frostbite in 30 minutes with exposed skin. For most of us, wind chills tonight will be between -5 and -15. That means you can get frostbite or hypothermia in 25 minutes.
I mean, if you think about it, you know, 25 minutes, that's not really a long time. That time will go by very quickly. So, you know, don't be, I saw someone in Marietta Square today walking their dog, okay? Today's not really the day to be outside for extended periods of time unless you are fully prepared. I mean, we're talking like ski mask, only your eyes showing kind of deal, because it is, the wind really can cause damage
think
to your
about
skin.
your pets too. They don't want to be out there in this
Yes.
cold.
Their little paws, just like the heat, you know, we talk about this in the summertime, the opposite effect. The heat on their paws, not great, but the cold on their paws, same thing. Those little pads can't handle that.
Yeah, so let's talk about wind chill, because a lot of people are like, what is wind chill,
Yes.
right? So when you're outside, your body loses heat. We sweat. That's one way that we lose heat, right? You lose heat through your head and through your feet. That's where heat escapes from your body the fastest. That's why when we are trying to bundle up, we cover our head, we cover our hands, we cover our feet.
Right.
Okay, when there's no wind, that layer of heat, it kind of stays with our body. Our body does, it kind of insulates itself. So if it's 20 degrees outside, it feels like 20 degrees, okay? But when you have the wind, it breaks up that little layer close to your body. So a 20-mile-per-hour wind, which is less than what we have outside right now, the winds are at 30, causes a 20-degree day to feel significantly colder, feels like 4. So that's the reason we have the wind chill. That's the reason that the wind makes it so dangerous to be outside.
Right, and if you're walking around in those layers, maybe you start sweating too, any of that moisture that does try to escape your body and then evaporates. Well, evaporation's a cooling process,
Yep.
so then that's gonna make it feel even colder. So doing any kind of prolonged activity outside,
Yep.
it's just not great.
And guys, we want to note that the wind, the 20-mile-per-hour wind, that wind is going to be with us through the next 36 hours. So here's your wind gusts right now. Really, really high, between 30 and 40, but taking you through the day-to-day. They die down slightly after sunset tonight, but it's still quite windy overnight. Wind gusts between 20 and 30 overnight, and then back up to 30 miles per hour tomorrow. So this wind is really going to impact the way it feels, not only through the day today, but through the day tomorrow. So yes, we have a first alert weather day today, but the danger will extend in tomorrow as well.
Right, today's the day the weather system came through. We were worried about maybe some patchy ice, which thankfully we really didn't see much of. But that cold isn't just going to magically disappear. This is a really strong system. And so yeah, it is. It's still going to be bitterly cold tomorrow for Christmas.
Really cold.
Yeah, I know.
gonna be really
You know,
cold.
we asked for a cold Christmas though, right?
No, we asked for a white Christmas, Courtney. There's a difference.
And I think only parts
We
of
wanted snow and 31 degrees,
Right.
okay? That's what we wanted. And then we wanted it to be 50 on the 26th.
in true Georgia fashion, we overdid it. It's just the way
We
it goes.
overdid it.
It's just
Like,
the way
leave it to
goes.
Georgia to be absolutely bitterly cold with no snow, right? Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about your hourly planner. We're going to see lots of sunshine today. You may see some clouds build back in through the afternoon. You can see those gusts stay above 28 miles per hour through the entire day. Feels like temperatures generally on either side of 0 degrees. Actual highs top out near 20.
Sunshine. That's probably the only silver lining of the forecast today. It's just that we have sunshine. I think it would be worse if it was this miserably cold and it was really gloomy.
Absolutely.
You know, so thankfully sunshine.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've broken down the wind chill. We've talked to you about what it means, how it works. Here are the wind chill values overnight. I honestly think that the wind chill advisory area, which includes Fulton County, Cobb County, Gwinnett County, and areas south, I think these areas could see wind chills as low as -10.
Right. I
Tonight.
think
That's
-5 is graceful.
-10 is kind of what our models are predicting. The wind chill warning was expanded last night to include Cobb County and Forsyth County and Hall County, and so even North Metro could see wind chill values as low as -20 degrees. Carlston, hello.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
I
Christmas.
believe Christmas is already here. It just blows my mind. All right, so feels like temperatures are going to stay bitterly cold. We're not getting a break,
Nope.
which is why we have that first alert. We want to let you know if you have anything to do the next couple of days, which it's Christmas weekend, so I'm sure a lot of you have a lot to do. You need to keep this winter gear with you.
Right. So yeah, your Friday evening plans. Here's what it feels like outside: -1 in Atlanta, the mountains -14 in Blairsville. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then overnight tonight, it gets even more dangerously cold. So yeah, here's where we bottom out. Tonight will be the coldest out of the entire cold stretch. Morning feels like temperatures will be between -5 and -17 degrees.
I'm speechless, honestly.
Right.
Ella just looked at me and I just had no reaction because it's just so cold. I mean, and the thing is, so when we started looking at this weather system weeks ago,
Yeah.
really, we've been kind of warning you about, the potential for, I remember talking about the 2-week temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center and being like, Christmas is probably going to be cold. Well, here we are. We were like, are you ready? Are you ready? All of us were kind of like, no, it's going to be really cold. But for this long, this is something we haven't seen in years.
9 years.
Yeah, a really long time. So, you have to prepare for it. Some people, like me, moving here, I grew up in South Florida, so I've visited this
Courtney
kind
was
of cold.
so cute during the newscast today. Cutter was out in Coweta County. We're going to talk to him in a minute, but he is in Coweta County and he's seeing flurries. And Courtney was pitching a fit. She's like, I'm so jealous. I want to see the flurries. She's seen flurries like 3 times in her entire life.
Well, like living somewhere that has flurries, yeah, that's a no. I've like, well, Macon. I lived in Macon before this, and I saw snow. But like, yeah, I mean, I get excited about snow. It's really fun. I grew up with palm trees on Christmas and like 80 degrees, you know. So, all right. So the really cold tomorrow morning, the coldest.
Yep.
This is our relief for the weekend.
Right.
At least for Christmas Eve.
Like this is tomorrow afternoon, even as we warm up, feels like temperatures stay in the single digits in the mountains and in the teens in Atlanta. So again, the wind, the cold is going to be with us through the entire weekend. Tomorrow, we're not even going to hit freezing. We'll be in the upper 20s. Yes, it will be sunny. That is the good news once again. But through the day, feels like temperatures stay in the teens. All right. So let's talk about Christmas Day, right? Because a lot of the kiddos wake up early. They want to open presents. Then they want to go outside and play with the presents that they open.
Yeah.
Christmas morning, you're looking at teens, 9 a.m. after the kids have opened the presents. They want to go out, ride their new bike, 19 degrees. They're going to have to bundle up once again. The wind by Christmas Day will be a little bit less. It's still going to be breezy, though.
Yeah, and that was what I was just going to say. It's still going to be breezy, so that 19 will feel at least a handful of degrees cooler than that. So every single layer, make them look like a marshmallow when they head out to ride that bike, if that's what they want to do.
And we finally hit freezing on Christmas Day for a few hours. We'll climb above freezing, but generally it's not until Monday afternoon where all of North Georgia will thaw out above freezing. And look at our morning lows. Even as we head into next week and we start to warm up, our nights stay significantly cold. We're talking morning lows in the 20s through Wednesday.
Yeah. So while we are going to get out of the negative numbers, at least feels like temperature-wise, at least.
Right.
I mean, it is still going to be cold. You know, so you can't go putting away that. We are in winter after all. You know, this shouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, it's going to be bitterly cold all week long. 40s will probably feel warm to us at that point.
They will.
And speaking of warm,
guys.
hallelujah.
Guys, we're going to end this with a graphic that's going to make all of us happy.
Yep.
All right? This is the temperature outlook. It's the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook issued by the Climate Prediction Center. Kind of gives an idea of what the country can expect next week.
Correct.
And most of the country, after going through this extreme cold, is going to thaw out. You can see the entire continental United States is expecting above normal temperatures, okay?
My eye is going to the Great Lakes region where they are currently experiencing blizzard-like conditions, and they're the ones who are going to be the warmest above average, like the most likely highest above average.
Right. Just incredible. Here, what you can expect is temperatures to warm steadily through the week next week. By New Year's, we're in the 60s, okay? I am tracking the chance at some rain around New Year's. I know there's a big game being played here, the Peach Bowl. A lot of people going, a lot of people tailgating, a lot of people have plans.
Right.
Right now looks like rain sometime around New Year's. Maybe the day after, maybe the day before. That's something that we're going to be monitoring closely next week, but what you don't have to plan on is this kind of cold.
Right.
Morning lows will be in the 40s, 50s, afternoon highs in the 60s. So it's actually going to be pretty mild for even if you're not going to the game, for any of your New Year's Eve plans. It looks like we'll see unseasonably warm weather. And like we said, we are going to see that gradual warm up through the week next week. We're back into the 50s, thank God, by Wednesday.
That's going to feel so nice.
You know what's going to be crazy, Courtney, is that 45 feeling real good next Tuesday.
You know, I don't think I ever in my life would have thought 45 would feel warm, but here we are.
Here we are.
Here we
December 2022, proving us wrong. All right. So yes, guys, no winter precipitation. In fact, no rain truly at all over the next week. So if you did have any concerns, I was getting some tweets about this. People traveling at the end of the weekend wanting to know, will I make my flight out or will I be able to get on the roads? You certainly will. We're not going to see any winter precipitation over the next 7 days.
Right, which is good. So bundle up, keep those pipes dripping. That's important. We'll touch on that one more time. Just, you know, keep all the preparations you've made, hopefully, for your house. Keep those going through the weekend because this is going to be quite a long stretch, but we do have some relief coming next week.
And of course, we're continuing to get new information in all throughout the day. We'll be live on OTT all day. We also will be back at noon on Atlanta News First for the noon newscast.
Yeah. So now we are going to head over to First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin. He is out in the elements today. So Cutter, You are live right now on our streaming platform. Good morning. Tell us kind of, first of all, how you're feeling and tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, Courtney, it is brilliantly sunny but dangerously cold, and we talked about how this would impact people's and businesses' daily routines. A business on Ponce forgot to turn off their automatic sprinkler system, and look at the mess it made. It is an ice rink. I don't know if you can see my feet moving, but it is slick, and they are aware of the issue. They're having to bring people out, break up the ice. They're going to put salt down on it, try to break it up to melt it. That's a small problem only affecting the bank. There are bigger issues on Ponce, though. The next property over, construction is ongoing. And look what's happening here. We're going to have to do a little bit of walking and talking. You can probably see the water bubbling up from, what appears to be a water main. I happen to live in the area. I know that this has been leaking water. Probably not cold related, but now that it is well below freezing, any water here is turning to ice. So this is affecting the bike lane, the emergency lane, kind of like that rough shoulder you have on Ponce. This is going to be Ponce going back westbound along kind of and towards the heart of Midtown. This is about a quarter mile back from Ponce City Market. But it is affecting a large area, and you can see it is into the main travel lanes. Not frozen yet, but just give it time. And this is going to all freeze up. Now, good news, we spoke with the security guard at the bank. He said he was going to call Atlanta PD, alert the city, 311, let them know main is leaking, and now we have this big ice issue for the shoulder, and it is impacting that rightmost lane of travel on Ponce, adjacent to Ponce City Market. So we're going to be watching this spot, but I think any business, especially up in Marietta, Roswell, those big streets that are lined with businesses, if you have automatic sprinkler systems and they haven't been turned off, there could be similar situations kind of playing out all across Metro Atlanta for the next 48 hours.
And Cutter, Maria here, you've been on the road and out in the elements pretty much all morning long. I think before this you were in our road tracker. I mean, how has it been? I know you have the special meteorologist eyes seeing this drop and just seeing the weather almost play out.
Yeah, it's cold. It's bitterly cold. It's dangerous to be out here. It's miserable to be out here at times if you're not, bundled up. But roads are fine. You turn on the Christmas music, crank the heat, and unless you run into a situation like this, we don't see too many issues. The air is so dry. We're talking chapped lips here that water does tend to evaporate quickly after the type of rain we had last night. The problems are occurring when you have a constant feed of moisture like that broken water main, like a sprinkler system. Aside from those issues, though, the wind, the dry air, the sunshine helping to get any as far as rain, snow issues out of the roadways. And so far, not too bad, but I am worried with how cold it is, how cold it's going to be, that burst pipes, both sprinkler systems affecting travel lanes and in homes, could really play out to be the bigger impact from this particular cold wave, especially as things start to warm back up Christmas Day into Monday the 26th.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, just on my way into the station, I saw some ice on the road, just lining up the edges, not where cars are, but definitely on the corners there. Now, I heard from, our other meteorologists that we are expecting temperatures to drop even more Saturday. Is this something we're going to continue to see?
Yeah.
I mean, what is really the next hours into the next day looking like?
Daytime hours today, a lot more of this. Temperature is going to level off here. They may drop another degree or two, and then they will struggle to get back to 20. So basically what we have now through the rest of the day. Problem is the sky, I mean, it's brilliantly clear. A couple clouds, the occasional snow flurry with those clouds, but mostly clear tonight. That's going to allow any heat we get during the day, and I use that term loosely, right, to escape back up into space. And temperatures are going to plummet tonight. Single digits to right around 10 degrees in the city of Atlanta. Could be near zero. Actual temperatures up in the mountains tonight. So that is going to freeze up anything. Broken water mains, pipes, sprinkler systems that weren't turned off. That's going to be a big issue. And if you don't have heat, if you have a power issue, certainly could be dangerous in the breeze. Yes, it's going to be lighter, but it doesn't take much wind to create dangerous wind chills, considering how cold it is. So even a 10-15 mile an hour breeze, which is in the forecast, will make it feel like it's well below zero overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Coldest tomorrow morning. And then as we go into the daytime tomorrow, remaining below freezing. But at least we're back in the 20s, right? No longer in the teens.
Yeah, certainly. I think we've been talking about this all morning. This is a historic wind chill, historic temperatures and weather that we're seeing. We say that word historic. What does that exactly mean? I mean, I know this is not a common occurrence in Atlanta, and certainly not something that a lot of people in Atlanta are prepared for.
Yeah, it's an infrastructure thing. This is the type of cold. When we say historic cold, just think a type of cold event that tests infrastructure, not just comfortability, but as far as water pressure, pipes, the risk of fires is greater, the risk of controlling those fires, the ability to control fires, I should say, is going to be a little bit harder because we have all of the wind. And it's just one of those cold waves, and if it's cold enough to burst pipes, cause issues. That's what we mean by historic as far as impact. But as far as numbers, we had a cold Christmas in 2018, got down to the mid-teens or so briefly, not as cold as this round. You have to go back to January 2014. January 2010 was another cold wave. Christmas 1989, kind of a benchmark. As far as North Georgia, much of the south and southeast, historic cold then, probably not quite getting to that level, but when you factor in more wind this go around, wind chills are what it feels like, about as cold as that 1989 scenario as it played out in North Georgia. It happens, it has happened in the past, it's happening now, and it can happen again. Think back to Texas, 2021, February was kind of a benchmark. Just, a little over a year ago, extreme cold. It was once in a generation, and then they're finding themselves kind of back into a similar situation. Not quite as cold, but close to it, and certainly almost as impactful there in Texas. So, history, going by the numbers, we've seen similar conditions in the past 10, 20 years, but it doesn't happen often, and it certainly doesn't happen enough to have the infrastructure in place to adequately deal with the type of cold that's infiltrating the south and the southeast. Now, are we live on Facebook and YouTube?
Yeah,
right
we
now,
are.
Maria?
I'm actually looking through some of the comments right now, and two people asking, how long can I be outside, especially if how long can my kids be outside?
Well, I think this is one of those scenarios we love to throw out, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. If you're bundled up, you should be okay. But exposed skin, between 15 and 30 minutes, you can start having some issues. I forgot my gloves, had to get new gloves this morning. We were down in Newnan, and I was miserable after about minute 9 or minute 10. So a lot of times, just listen to your kids, check on them, check on the elderly, those that don't have the best heating, and just see how they're feeling and being intuitive with how you're feeling, how your loved ones are feeling, whoever you're in charge of taking care of, how they're feeling, and just kind of listening to what they're saying. And I think that's kind of the best way to go. Your kids will probably start complaining about wanting to go inside before they actually get in any real danger, but it's just important to be in tune and in touch with how you're feeling if you are someone that has to work outside. Cover every inch of your body, wear several layers. The wind is biting through the layers today, so why it's important to have multiple, and just be aware of how you're feeling as we go through this cold wave.
Yeah, certainly. I wanted to talk to you as a meteorologist for a moment. We talk about dangerous wind chills and the weather not being something to take lightly, but the response from officials has been pretty serious as well, just to prepare the roads. What is your message to people, as they're navigating through today, getting ready for the weekend, as far as staying safe around this holiday freeze that we're experiencing?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those events where if you're bundled up, if you're wearing layers and you reduce your time outside, you're going to be fine. Assuming you don't have a pipe burst, that's what we're concerned about. Any minor power issues appears to be pretty spotty, improving after this morning. We did have a peak of about 100,000 out across North Georgia, but should improve a little bit into the afternoon and into tomorrow. So burst pipe's a concern, but let's take that out of the equation as far as overall impacts. Cooking in the kitchen, watching the Christmas movies, if you're bundled up, spending a little bit of time outside, but just trying to avoid extended periods outside, you'll probably be just fine. But if you are one that works outside, that you have to work outside, an emergency official, maybe one of these 311 responding workers that are going to come out and shut the water off out here, those are the people that are most at risk this weekend as we go through this cold blast. But of course, they're in tune with how to dress. They usually are out in the worst of the elements, whether that's summer heat or winter cold, and dressing in all the layers, staying dry, and reducing, if possible, the amount of time you actually spend outdoors in the elements. Those are the key factors, and a lot of those government responses, we have to remember, are precautionary because it's just in case. I mean, they have to plan for the worst. That's what emergency responders do. They plan for the most impactful scenario, and they have to be just in case because they're responsible for our well-being, for our lives. Our tax dollars go to those implementations, into those emergency responses. So it's important that they do that in the just-in-case scenario. For example, we were driving up Moreland to get here to check out this water issue and the ice issue, and they had treated Moreland. There wasn't any ice, but the sand was still laid out. 85 in Newnan, Coweta County, the sand was laid out. A lot of little pebbles being kicked up, kind of dusty. They did that just in case, even though we don't have the issues, because sometimes there is that little bit of uncertainty, and they have to plan for the worst case scenario.
And Cutter, I do have you for a few more minutes before we check in with our reporter, Megan Packer. I wanted to take this moment to really get a better understanding of, the differences we hear: watches, warnings, advisories. How should people navigate that? What does each one mean, and how do they differ?
A warning tends to be the most severe, the one to take the most seriously, but in reality, just listen to the numbers and the advice is all the same. Wear as many layers as possible. Try to spend as little time outdoors as you have to. I feel actually fairly comfortable right now. I'll ask my photographer, on a scale of 1 to 10, how miserable are you? He's okay. It's not 75 and sunny out here, but we made sure that we took time to dress in many, many layers. We made sure that we have a warm spot to go to if we do start to feel uncomfortable. And I think it's that bit of advice, what to wear, how long to stay out, that is really, regardless of whether you're under a wind chill advisory, a wind chill warning, advice is all the same. Dress in as many layers as possible. And if you don't have to be out, let's wait until maybe Christmas afternoon before you have to get out. But of course, if you're going to family members' houses, most of those routes are fine. Just make sure your car is in tip-top shape. I'm sure people are waking up to dead batteries. We ran into that this morning. And they're waking up to flat tires. But if your car is not susceptible to those issues this morning, you're out on the roadways. Unless you run into a random mess like this, it's just miserably cold. All the layers you can wear. Get to your destination as safely as possible, and then just enjoy it indoors. The heat on, the Christmas movies on, and cooking, with the family. It's about caution and preparation, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything this weekend.
Cutter Martin with your indoor plans on top of what you shouldn't do outdoors. Thank you so much. I do have one here Facebook comment that just came in. When is this all going to be over? Somebody's asking.
Well, we're just getting started. This is chapter 1 of maybe a chapter 4 or 5 book, and I think that as we get into Christmas Day, Atlanta may briefly climb above freezing, but we're only talking for an hour or two. There's not going to be much melting. There's not going to be much improvement. If you want bigger improvement, we have to wait until Monday afternoon, but not really normal until next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoons, as temperatures actually surpass normal and go back to warmer than average. But remember, as far as the risk of pipes bursting, the big issues, they freeze now, they remain frozen, but as temperatures warm up, that's when the water thaws, the ice thaws rather, and that water starts flowing through the pipe and the expansion gets disrupted and they will break. So actually, as we warm up early next week, that's when we may start hearing more issues of pipes bursting, because right now, we're seeing it. Water is freezing, both in and out of the pipes, whether they are spilling out onto the street or it's a pipe in your backyard. It's your pool equipment. It's PVC for your sprinkler system. It's freezing now, but as it thaws, that's when the real issues could begin as we get into early next week. But trying to shorten that answer for you. A little bit of improvement as we get into early week, just after Christmas Day, and then bigger improvement by next Wednesday.
Cutter, I'm going to let you go here shortly. I just know, we're following this throughout today, both on Atlanta News First Plus and our newscast, Atlanta News First, starting at noon. I know that we might be getting another update from you closer to the noon hour as you're braving the elements. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be following over these next few hours?
Yeah, we're just chilling out here. We're checking out this water main. In case someone just tuned in, they missed the top of this, we're here on Ponce de Leon Avenue. We had a bank that accidentally, here's a heads up, business owners, those that have sprinkler systems, they left on their sprinklers, automatic timers, everyone has them. They're great until they're not, and that's what happened here. Again, a little hard to get in the bank. This is all ice now. They've put some, or they're going to be putting some more stuff down to try to thaw it out. So that's the issue here. Bigger issue, we have a water main or something below the concrete that's leaking out onto ponds. Big ice issues between about the Popeyes. I believe that's going to be Boulevard on down to past Glen Iris, all the way down to Ponce, where the Whole Foods is. That rightmost lane, not only wet, but it's starting to really ice over, and it's going to get icier. So they have called the city of Atlanta, 311. They're going to try to get that water turned off. Hopefully they can put something down to clear up that shoulder, the bus lane, the bike lane, and that rightmost driving lane. We're going to be out here monitoring that situation and hopefully have some good news for you coming up on Atlanta News First at noon.
Cutter, thank you so much. Stay safe and warm out there, okay?
Will do.
All right, so as we are working on connecting with our reporter, Megan Packer, she has been following the significant amount of tree damage that we've seen all morning long since we've been on from 4:30 a.m. this morning, actually, bringing you that. So we're going to be following that, but before we tune in to Megan, I want to take you through some of the power outages, because I know both on our YouTube and Facebook pages, a couple people were saying, my power went out overnight and then it got restored and then it's coming back out. And that is really going to be the pattern for some areas throughout the day. So I'm going to take you to our website here. We have a fantastic list of power outages, any neighborhoods and areas that are impacted, so that you can know if your area in particular, or an area that you're probably planning on heading towards, is experiencing some issues. So right here you can see College Park, Ellenwood, Decatur, Lithonia, Stone Mountain, a lot of different places that have experienced power outages are still dealing with them, and emergency response crews getting ready and responding as soon as they can. We actually heard from some of our field crews that a lot of residents don't even have to call in to report a power outage, but they were actually able to get somebody out to their area through smartwatches. The Georgia Power has said that they are monitoring through their systems any power outages, so that people don't necessarily have to manually call in, but that they can see where power goes down and just send their crews out and get that restored as quick as possible. But take a look at this website. This is why I think it's so useful. It kind of breaks down exactly where these power outages are, and you can see this has been as early as 5:30. I think we even heard reports of a power outage at 2 a.m. when I went to check. So this has been ongoing for some time. That is something that we're going to continue to monitor and update right here and on our Atlanta News First app. And speaking of apps, I know a lot of you are going through your Friday. It might still be a work day for some. The best way that you can stay up to date on weather alerts, especially changes in the weather and impacts in your area, we have a First Alert weather app that we push out hour by hour updates personalized to what you need to know, and then notifications on the big important breaking news, water main breaks, anything that is weather related. We'll let you know both on the Atlanta News First app as well as more weather coverage on the First Alert app. So a lot of resources for you there. I want to take you through more of what we will be looking at throughout today. Some of the impacts that both Ella, Courtney, and Cutter talked about, our meteorologists, throughout this morning was the impacts on homes, the impacts on pets. So I do want to show you a little bit of how local officials have been preparing. This is a closer look of how the brining process took place just a couple days ago, as well as what they're doing now, just to make sure that they are properly responding to any impacts that we continue to see.
Georgia Department of Transportation crews are ready to roll. They spent the day preparing and are already pre-treating roads tonight in case of ice Friday. Crews have 21,000 miles to treat and will start on the interstates at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
We're asking for your cooperation. If you don't have to be out tomorrow, stay home and stay warm. And certainly on Friday morning, we ask that you not get out.
Obviously, with Christmas right around the corner and the rest of the holidays that are going on, weather is not of the forefront of people's minds.
But Governor Brian Kemp wants it to be, and he's declaring a state of emergency. He and state agency leaders gathered to put out a plea to prepare your home and your family, and to have a plan in case we see power outages coupled with frigid temperatures.
Have your blankets out, your cold weather gear. If you've got some old winter jackets or some coats, go ahead and get those out now.
Director of the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency, Chris Stallings, wants you to have 3 days worth of essentials ready to go and to stay hydrated. Don't forget batteries, flashlights, first aid kits, and medicine.
Never use a generator, camp stove, charcoal, or gas grill to heat your home. Unfortunately, that's going to happen, and we do not need that happening on our watch. We need you to be weather-wise.
If you're heading out of town for the holidays, make sure a neighbor has a key or a code for your house in case of a burst water pipe.
The state is ready. We're just challenging you now to make sure you're ready.
Megan Packer, Atlanta News First.
And speaking of, we do have Megan Packer joining us here now from out in the elements as well. Megan, I want to get out to you. You have been following some tree damage pretty much throughout the morning.
Hi, Maria. That's right. I am in DeKalb County right now, right off La Vista Road. It's loud because there is a tree crew here working to remove this massive tree that fell on this house early this morning. We have been out here for hours, and the good news is the couple that lives in this house is okay. They are safe. They were sleeping when this tree came down. And they are just thankful that they are okay right now. 2 days before Christmas, you can see the tree crew got out here pretty quickly. They've already been on the phone with insurance, and they are keeping a really good attitude about this, all things considered, because this is a pretty remarkable scene.
Yeah, Megan, and like I said, this is something that we've seen across Georgia. I mean, trees down, damaging homes, that just the latest of it. Take me through exactly, what some residents that you've spoke to have said. I mean, I know that a lot of us knew this weather was coming, but this is not something that you can expect or plan for.
Right, Maria, I can tell you I spent the day yesterday talking to tree experts, arborists, and their job is to go around and assess the condition of trees. And they say the name of the game with this really is maintaining your trees year round and not hesitating and not waiting until the bad weather shows up to deal with it. So if you have a tree that you have any doubt about, any concern about, call an arborist throughout the course of the year. They will come out and assess it for you. They will tell you if it's dead. They will tell you if there are dead branches on it, if you need to take it down, if you need to get part of the tree taken down. And the thing with this tree I'm showing you right now, this is coming from a neighbor's property. And the homeowner here says he's worked with his neighbor, the person whose property the tree is on. They have trimmed it in the past. They thought they were doing the right thing by taking care of it. But with those wind gusts we saw this morning and an already saturated ground, unfortunately, even when they thought they were doing the right thing by maintaining this tree, it still came down. The good news is it came down right on the front of his house. This is crushing the top of his dining room. Their bedroom is in the back of the house, so they were asleep. You can only imagine what that sounded like to this couple when they were sound asleep around 4 or 5 o'clock or so this morning. But they've been inside, they've been cleaning up. Hank, the homeowner here, he tells me it didn't even crush any of their nice china that they have in there in the dining room. He's got a glass table that is not even damaged. So he's keeping a really, really good attitude. They're thankful they are alive. They are looking forward to seeing their family for Christmas. So they're really keeping it in perspective, knowing that this could have been a whole lot worse, Maria.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine having to deal with that. As we're headed into a Christmas weekend, it's supposed to be a time to come together. But the good news, it sounds like they are trying to hold each other in this moment and move forward. We've been talking throughout the morning about the importance of not being outside for too long. Any word that you've personally heard from covering this from officials as far as going to warming centers if your home is no longer a place that you can stay inside?
We do know that the different municipalities around town have been opening the warming centers. I would encourage everybody to just reach out to their individual county and city, since I know they all have different operating hours. The couple here, thankfully, they're close with their neighbors, and so they've been getting warm inside of their neighbor's house. as we show you live right now. Look at this. This is this tree crew. This is what these guys do. And you know that they will be busy doing this all day long. They are harnessed. They've got their helmets on. They're getting up here on the roof of this house. So they have got their work cut out for them. No doubt the first of many houses that they will be visiting today. You can see they're bundled up as well. At least we've got the sun up now. That's at least helping us a little bit, even if that's psychological. It's nice to at least see the sun. We've been out here since very early this morning. 6 o'clock or so is when we got here. So we are thankful to see the sun. So is this homeowner, because he's getting a better idea of assessing this damage. But you can see this tree service company not wasting any time, and they got out of here pretty quickly, Maria, I can tell you. The homeowner told us that he started making the calls really early this morning, calling the tree service, calling his insurance company. So he made all those proper calls.
It sounds like those crews are going to be busy with that damage for quite some time. Megan, thank you so much. We'll check back in with you on Atlanta News First 12.
Thanks, Maria. We'll see you then.
All right, so as you can see, just the amount of damage, that is not just one house. I mean, that is something that we've been following all morning long. And taking you back to our website, Atlanta News First, this is where you can really get an idea of where those tree impacts are being felt. So, and especially the response from emergency officials who were planning on some of these impacts to take place. They were ready to go, as you heard from Megan. But taking a look at the times that we've mapped out for you, I mean, in DeKalb, Reedon Road and Dustin Court, Stonewall Street in Southwest Atlanta, just other areas. Newnan seeing a tree down at 5:53. That's something our Cutter Martin was following earlier this morning, as well as Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway, seeing a tree down now, not just on houses, but on roadways and other areas. This is just a mess that crews are going to have to respond to and respond quickly to, because as we've been talking about throughout the morning, it is not necessarily the best idea to stay outside for long periods of time, especially if you don't have that proper layering that our meteorologists were talking about. Want to take a minute to talk a little bit about those impacts, particularly of hypothermia. I'm going to bring up my graphic here. This is some of what you can expect if you are out prolonged with exposed skin, not proper layering. A lot of those impacts in the past we've seen felt by our community of unhoused people experiencing homelessness who don't necessarily have access to heating or access. They are relying on warming centers that have been set up across Georgia, across Atlanta, especially in the areas where the temperatures have become dangerous. And when we say dangerous, a big part of that is the wind, monitoring that and seeing just some of the damage being felt. Just take a looking at those trees, power outages, but also the cold and being an issue to stay outside. So definitely take into consideration if you were planning on any outdoor activity and now you're starting to reconsider. This is a real possibility that you'll have to look out for. Let's take a look at how some businesses were helping people prepare.
Try this out. At Academy Sports and Outdoors in Dunwoody,
and we've seen the uptick.
Shoppers are bracing for Arctic temperatures not felt in North Georgia in nearly a decade.
Definitely people are coming in looking for long underwear. They're looking for fleece, hoodies, jacket.
We found this mom buying insulated underwear for her son. He's an electrician who works outside.
But I think he'll be happy to have the long johns.
The First Alert Weather Team is anticipating wind chill temperatures this weekend to be between -10 and 10 degrees. Officials are warning anyone outside with exposed skin run the risk of catching frostbite, an injury that can occur in under 30 minutes.
Some of the warning signs are white or grayish yellowing of the skin, numbness of the skin that feels unusually firm or waxy.
Hypothermia is even worse. It's when your body loses heat faster than it can produce. A body temperature below 95 degrees is especially dangerous.
So if you do experience some numbness, wrap yourself in some type of blanket, try to sip on something warm and start warming the core temperatures.
In 2018, a reported 14 people died in Atlanta due to hypothermia. All of the victims were homeless.
So certainly we have this in mind.
At Grady, the hospital's social services staff is busy working to ensure anyone seeking medical treatment because of the cold also has access and rides to warming centers across the city.
Some people, unfortunately, will probably be stuck out in the cold. For those people, we always talk about kind of layering and warming.
Zach Summers, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, absolutely. Those impacts being felt really across Georgia today. I want to take a moment to address our travelers. A lot of people still working on getting out of Atlanta, possibly coming to Atlanta for the holiday weekend. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing at Hartsfield. You know, our Madeline Montgomery, our reporter, has been there all morning talking to some of the passengers, but we want to take this moment to talk to an ATL spokesperson who has been monitoring and assisting travelers at this time. Andrew Gobeil, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to pull you up on my screen here. Just bear with me. Can you hear me okay?
Take your time, Maria. I can hear you just fine, thanks.
So I'm really glad you're joining us here today because we've seen some impacts already at Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta International Airport. What are some of the main issues that you guys are addressing at this time?
You know, to be honest with you, the main concern that we have is the safety and security of our employees who are working outside. It is, what do we got right now? About 16 degrees. That's cold, even for this Northeasterner, that's kind of cold. So we are concerned about our employees who are working outside. We want to make sure that they are protected. They've got winter weather gear, they've got PPE on, and they're given an opportunity to come on in and take a break and warm up as needed. As far as the travelers are concerned, we're also in close contact with, of course, our airline partners, and that's how we achieve the success and the efficiency of the airport. It's a collaborative effort between the airline partners, ourselves, our concessionaires, law enforcement, whether it is federal or local or regional. So we collaborate and we plan and we make sure that we're all on the same page. We know how many people are coming in. We're aware of how many passengers may be here for an extended period of time because of delays or challenges faced elsewhere. I say this a lot. The domestic aviation industry is an interconnected system. So what may be happening in Chicago or New York or Boston or Portland up in the Northeast could impact us here in Atlanta, even though we're looking out and I see absolutely blue skies and beautiful conditions. So when we've got flights coming in here to Atlanta from those areas that are impacted, we have to keep in mind that there may be some delays or some other challenges.
And we're talking with Andrew Gobeil, Andy Gobeil. If you have any travel-related questions, I know a lot of people are trying to still plan their travel around this. Drop them in the comments. We are checking them on Facebook and YouTube. I want to take this moment and really talk about the long lines. I think the main question that we're getting is how early should I get to the airport at this point?
All right. Well, Madeline will tell you that there were no long lines out there this morning, which is a good thing. During holiday travel, during peak holiday travel, one of the challenges that we see, of course, is that we've got large numbers, large volumes of people coming on through. We are so proud, and everybody here in Atlanta is proud of the fact that Atlanta is home to the busiest airport in the world. We expect to see between 90 and 92 million travelers throughout the airport throughout 2022. One of our other titles, though, that is just as important to us is the fact that we're the most efficient airport in the world. We get people through quickly and efficiently, safely, and hopefully enjoyably so they have a good time. Back to your question. We have been saying this for quite some time. We want our passengers to arrive here in the airport at least 2.5 hours prior to their domestic departure time. 3 hours if you're flying internationally. Also, if you have special needs accommodations, if you're in a wheelchair, if you've got your hands full with kids, add about 30 minutes to that time as well, just to make sure you're on track to get through. You'll get through, you'll be able to travel through the security wait lines, and then you can head on out to our concourses. If you're early, if you get through there early enough, then great. You can stop and have a cup of coffee or a lunch, maybe an adult beverage if you're so inclined while you're waiting for your flight to depart. So 2.5 hours is the general rule of thumb for travelers who are traveling domestically here through Atlanta.
And as you mentioned, ATL is a large airport that houses a lot of passengers and travelers. I know you guys have some resources that people can connect with as they're trying to figure out exactly how this weather is going to impact them. Maybe not specific airlines, but are there any tools online specifically that people should look at if they are planning their travel?
Sure. The best traveler, Maria, is the best prepared traveler. So go to our website, atl.com. There, specifically, we have next to real-time updates for parking availability. If you're driving here to the airport, you don't quite know where to go, not only do we tell you which parking lots are available, but how to get there if you're coming from 85, 285, 75. So ATL.com provides real-time updates for parking availability. We provide near real-time updates for security wait lines as well. And I'm looking at some of our figures. We had the longest wait time that we saw earlier today was about 25 minutes or so, and things are improving as well. So when you go to our website, atl.com, you can check out our security wait time so you'll have an idea as to how long you're going to wait. And then finally, and I mentioned this earlier about our concessionaires partners, when you go to the website, atl.com, you can see which concessionaires are closest to your gates. You can find out where you can get that burger, where you can get those donuts or a cup of coffee. So go to the website. Another tip that we offer, download the app for your airlines so that you can find out from them what is going on. They will specifically communicate with you for the most part about your flights. So you will provide immediate updates as to the status of the flight, what their plans are, and what's going on. Follow their social media channels and follow our social media channels. We're at ATL Airport. We'll update you on Twitter, on Facebook. So we'll let people know what is happening and what's going on. So that's the best way. Stay well informed.
And I do see a viewer question here, talking a little bit about turbulence and how the airplanes are dealing with the wind. Do you guys have plans in place? I'm sure you're monitoring all of this.
Yeah, we of course, we had winter weather meetings throughout the week last week to discuss what is going on here. And I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of the airlines. I won't do that. But they have far more meteorologists than we do. They know what to expect and they know how to address these challenges operationally.
Is there anything that you've noticed that a lot of people are doing that might not be the best approach? Any tips on things to avoid doing as they're getting to ATL and trying to navigate through all of this?
Well, for travelers coming to the airport, this is a challenge that we have faced for quite a few years now. And this has nothing to do with the winter weather we're discussing now, or even the holiday travel. Learn the best way to travel with a weapon. If you're going to bring a weapon on your flight, you cannot carry it through the security checkpoint, but the airlines and TSA do offer you options and opportunities on how best to secure that weapon in your checked baggage. Do that. Keep in mind that if you carry a weapon through the security lines here, you'll get caught, you'll get pulled aside, you will interrupt operations. There'll be people behind you who will be frustrated and upset. So learn how best to travel with your weapon. That's what we want to do. And again, just stay informed about everything. Go to the websites, go to the TSA website, go to your airline's website. That'll help you determine where you're going to go and be prepared before you arrive here. Again, as we had said, know where your parking lot's going to be. Know how you're going to get here if you're going to take MARTA, where you're going to go. Another feature that we're talking about is a relatively new parking deck that we've created, ATL West. Just go on the website, you'll find directions on how to get here. Park at ATL West. You can take the Sky Train from ATL West, and it drops you right off here in our domestic atrium. It's a great option.
I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have you on here, this information with a lot of people having those travel concerns, rethinking their plan around the weather, having you present this information, especially these resources. I want to make sure we don't leave anything out. Any final thoughts, things people should know?
Yeah, again, be prepared. Make sure that you understand where you're going and what's going on. Holiday travel is unique in that it is a lot of the infrequent travelers, families who don't travel as much. So you're in a new environment. You're in an environment where you're dealing with tens of thousands of passengers here in Atlanta. Don't be intimidated. Don't be worried. We're here to help. Trust me. We have our customer service representatives downstairs who want to step up and offer any assistance. All of those, you're on the executive level, do that as well. We go downstairs when it's busy. We'll offer assistance. We'll help people out. Don't be afraid to ask questions of anybody here. We are one ATL after all, and we want to make sure that this is an enjoyable experience for everyone. And do a little bit of homework before you get here. Go to those websites, find out the best way to get here, where to park, where to go on through, where to eat once you get through security, and finally, have a good time. There is something about airports during the holiday period that is absolutely enjoyable. I love working here. I really do. Going up and seeing everybody meet and kiss and greet when they get here, it's heartwarming. It really is. And so, for some of the frustrations that we deal with, some of the challenges that we see, it makes it all worthwhile, especially for those of you who are traveling.
I appreciate all this information. I know I love flying myself, so this is fantastic resources. Andy, thank you so much. Again, we will have a full article on our website with helpful links like these that were mentioned. Thank you, Andy.
Anytime. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right. We do have an update from Georgia Power that I do want to get into here. So we will talk a little bit about that. I'm going to drop my travel graphic. New information into our newsroom. Georgia Power working to repair damage and restore power. Now that damage mostly concentrated in North Georgia and parts of Metro Atlanta. I'm going to read the information I got here directly from Georgia Power. Power has already been restored to approximately 120,000 customers that had experienced those power outages. So those are the ones that I was talking about earlier, mentioning to you on our Atlanta News First app and our atlantanewsfirst.com website. But 120,000 people in North Georgia experiencing power, that power now being restored. Georgia Power saying, you know, they're grateful and they thank people for their patience and understanding during this time while their emergency crews do work as quickly and efficiently as possible to get that power back. As our meteorologist had mentioned before, this is important because once you lose power, you lose heat. It's no longer safe for you to stay in your house for long periods of time. That's where they encourage you to find a warm area, warming center. But right now it looks like Georgia Power doing its part, trying to get power back to as many neighborhoods that are experiencing these outages. Now, the teams also said that the company's power generation plants are working around the clock to help ensure ability to meet increased demands for energy during these low temperatures that we're seeing. So some words there from you from Georgia Power. Again, most of those damages and power outages seen are coming out of the North Georgia area where temps are very low, but already 120,000 customers, Georgia Power customers, seeing some of that power coming back. So they are in good hands at this time. If you are experiencing a power outage, drop it in the comments. Let us know. We have our Atlanta News First team across the metro area in your neighborhood possibly following these types of impacts, and we want to make sure that we get you information as far as the response time and anything else you need to know regarding these impacts. So as we work to get in touch with our Bridget Spencer, she has been following warming centers that have been operating, trying to help those who either don't have access to the heaters, to power, or have possibly lost power and have been told to go somewhere where they can find that warmth. We'll be checking in with her, getting you some on-the-ground perspective here in a moment. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some other things you can do if you do currently have power in your home, just to make sure that you're prepared as best as possible. One of those things, make sure that you're charging your phone throughout today, making sure that you are powering up any devices that you will need in the event that your power does go out. That's going to be an important thing for you to do. And then other tips on protecting your home at this time. It is still a good opportunity for you to look around your house if you have exposed piping and get that addressed.
Yes, it's money, but it's cheaper than me having the plumber come out.
It's not a big inconvenience to Jerome Walker to let the faucet drip. He does it overnight when the temps are expected to drop.
For sure, once we get to be well below freezing marks, say in the teens, I would start letting it drip.
Walker showed us his step-by-step at home as cold temperatures head our way.
Considering this is an outside wall right here, I would open up the cabinets just like it suggested, you know, to let the heat come in here a little bit more.
And his advice doesn't stop inside the home.
And in my case, I have a towel and a little bag so the towel doesn't get soaked.
Even outside, there are things you should do to protect your house.
The cold air will eventually funnel its way through the faucet tap to the plumbing underneath.
Matthew Zern with Zern Plumbing in Chamblee says you'd be surprised the damage that can be done by avoiding these simple steps.
People sometimes make the mistake of leaving hoses attached to hose spigots on the outside of their house. So always want to make sure you disconnect those. people leave their garage doors open inadvertently, which generally can cause, frozen pipes when it gets as cold as it's predicted to get.
Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First.
Some information for you there. Again, if you have power right now, make sure you're charging your devices. Let a friend know. They might not know that people are experiencing power outages, but they could also be impacted by this. So it's a good time to just make sure you're all set in the event that your power does cut out. While we were watching that news package, we did receive a video from Georgia Power just talking a little bit more about their response. I want to get you over to that so that you know what crews are doing right now to work on getting power back for those that have lost it at this time.
I'm Ryan Poole, Georgia Power Storm Center Operations Manager, here to provide you an update on our operations during this event. Overnight last night and into this morning, we received extremely cold temperatures and extremely high winds that have brought down trees and power lines and ultimately interrupted our customer service, primarily in the North Georgia and parts of the metro Atlanta area. Our crews are working safely and as quickly as possible to restore service to those interrupted customers as we deal with this winter event, high winds, and icy roads. To the customers directly affected, on behalf of the Georgia Power team, we want to thank you for your understanding and your patience as we know you deal with extreme cold temperatures in this event in the midst of holiday season. We will continue to provide information to you. We encourage you to visit georgiapower.com/storm to get an update on our overall restoration efforts. On behalf of the team at Georgia Power, please keep safety top of mind through this event and take care.
Some information from you there directly from Georgia Power. Again, if you just joined us on this live stream, just to reiterate, we received the latest information from Georgia Power saying that the damage and power outages that they are experiencing are primarily out of the North Georgia area. They have already successfully restored approximately 120,000 customers, the power for 120,000 customers, and they are working around the clock. Some important information for you here. Them saying from Georgia Power, the teams at the company's power generation plants are working around the clock to help ensure ability to meet increased demand for energy during these low temperatures. And that is something that is especially being felt up in North Georgia. If you are in that area, let us know what the experience has been like for you. Whether you've lost power, we are checking our Facebook and YouTube comments throughout this live stream. But the main message from Georgia Power is that they are aware. Actually, they said earlier in our morning newscast, we got reports from them that they have systems in place where they can monitor power outages so that you don't necessarily need to manually contact Georgia Power, that their crews are following the full outage map and that they can monitor it closely. I'm actually going to try to pull up that map for you here while we are talking about this, just so that you can get a better visual picture. Take a look at that. That is, I'm going to refresh this, make sure you have the latest information. That is a look over Georgia just to see what the impacts are being felt. And some are small neighborhoods, a minor power outage, and others, most common, seeing a large impact of power being completely gone. Crews working really hard to get that power back. But you can see around the metro Atlanta area here, I'll zoom in a little bit, where that impact has been. So these are some of the hot spots where at least 1,000 or less customers have experienced power outages. And we, of course, have on our website a full list that we're updating minute by minute of the neighborhoods that are experiencing these power outages. You can see Stone Mountain, Lithonia, Decatur, Ellenwood, College Park, and others, and the amount of customers that have been impacted. This goes back as far as, I want to say, 2 a.m. this morning when we received those initial reports from wind knocking out power. Crews, Georgia Power working to restore it as quickly as possible. You can see Canton, Swanee, Douglasville, Newnan even. A lot of communities around Georgia experiencing these power outages and a lot seeing their power being restored. We heard from Georgia Power 120,000 customers experiencing that their power has been restored. 120,000 customers getting their power back in time. as well as those that are actively seeing emergency crews responding. I'm going to take this time to check some Facebook comments. If you guys have any questions, or YouTube, I know Zachary said that he was in Duluth, I believe. He was outside for about 45 minutes. The gear helps a lot. Zach had Alaskan hard gear on. That is a fantastic idea. I had to really look in my closet and layer up because I was not prepared, but I'm also thankfully indoors. So if you are going to be outside, be like Zach. Make sure you have your impressive winter gear put together and available. All right, let's read some of these other comments. Someone saying, Zachary Snow saying, did someone pick my house up and move me to Minnesota while I was sleeping? You know, when I woke up this morning, I'll tell you guys, I'm from Hawaii. So I'm not built for these climates and conditions. I remember last year seeing some of the snow. I don't know if anybody remembers. I believe it was in January, that one day that we got some flurries, some snow. That was a sight to see, but this type of temperature, I'm definitely going to stay indoors. Zach, interesting, your last name is Snow, so you'd think you'd be ready for this, but you said it was surprising waking up and it feeling like you're in Minnesota. Very good stuff right there. All right, let's check through our Facebook comments. Tareen Hart asking, should water still be dripping during the day or only at night? So Tareen, the advice that we've gotten from the coverage that we've done was that you should keep that going at least as temperatures are dropping. We will continue to check in with experts and officials and our crews. We have some tips out on how to protect your home on our website and in our app. If you wanted to check that out, they definitely address that more there. All right, I'm going to take this moment to connect with our reporter, Bridget Spencer, who is out in the elements right now talking about warming centers. Bridget, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, so I know you've been out there all morning long covering these shelters, these warming centers that are trying to help those that don't necessarily have access to heat, or maybe their power went out and they're now faced with a decision to find a source of heat to stay warm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There are several warming centers out in the area. So Atlanta in particular has 2 of them, and then East Point also has one. But they're letting people know that that's where they can go to find some shelter because, of course, as we've been talking about all morning, these are some dangerously cold temperatures. And right now we are at one of the GDOT brine facilities, and this is where they have been meeting to basically kind of prepare to treat the roads. And the roads actually have been looking pretty good so far. So we've been pretty lucky. They've been canvassing all highways. That's I-75, 85, 285, and I-20. They've been canvassing with liquid brine. And as of now, crews are basically saying they haven't been seeing a lot of bad spots on the road. So that's certainly some good news.
Yeah, certainly. And I was talking to our meteorologist, traffic anchor, Courtney Jacobazi. She said the roads have been calmer than what we were anticipating. You know, with these conditions, we can always expect some sort of traffic, some impact on the roadways. But part of that calmness has come from state officials, local officials doing these efforts to get people prepared. Have you had a chance, I know you've been kind of out there all morning, to talk to some local officials or residents and get their thoughts on this weather that we're going through?
Yeah, you know what? I have been speaking with people, and you know what? They're really shocked at this weather, as we all have been. And I know that some people knew that the temperatures would be cold, but they didn't know exactly how cold and how high the wind would be gusting. And you know what? Even though the roads have been looking pretty clear, GDOT says no major issues, but we were just driving this morning, my coworker and I, and we actually hit a little slick area, like some black ice. So that's still out there here and there. So it's important to really be vigilant and watch yourself while you're driving on the road.
Yeah, certainly. I know that you are also going to be providing us some updates in the noon hour. Anything we can particularly expect from you? I know you've kind of had that on-the-ground perspective that a lot of us have been told, you know, stay indoors, don't really put yourself in that situation. What can you tell us?
Yeah, for sure. That's the main thing. big message I've been hearing from GDOT is we're not in the clear, so to speak. They've used about 50% of their brine supply so far, so that's good that they didn't have to use all of it, but that other 50%, they're reserving it in case they need to come out there. So of course, you know, as we were saying, there's still some slick spots on the road, so really be careful. We don't want to have to get GDOT to come out there to have to respond to accidents. And of course, we don't want first responders to have to respond to those icy type of wrecks.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you guys feeling? I mean, I've been inside for some time, luckily, but what's the temperature been like for you? Any personal impacts you've been feeling?
Yeah, you know what? It's true what they say about the frostbite. You really got to be careful. I could see I heard you guys talking a little bit earlier that after about 25 minutes or so, you start to feel it. And boy, that's true because it's I'm not really used to this kind of weather. I'm from right here in Georgia. I grew up in Marietta. I'm not used to these cold temperatures. So you really do feel it out here. And the frostbite is something serious, and hypothermia is something serious. You need to watch out for those signs.
Yeah, certainly, Bridget. I'm going to let you get back to some warmth at this time, but I just want to thank you for giving us this look at how officials are responding and more of where people can go for these resources.
Thank you.
All right, let's get you back to some information that you can use at this time. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cancellations, closures that are happening around this weather. So I'm going to get you some of that information pulled up here in a moment. But yeah, as you heard from Bridget, crews are continuing to brine the roads, taking those measures to make sure drivers are safe. I think the biggest impacts that our meteorology team, our weather team has been telling us is those bridges and overpasses. That is where you can expect or anticipate some thin sheets of ice. Right now at this time, these efforts from officials seeming to help the situation, brining the roads ahead of time, continuing to do that at this moment. Let's talk a little bit about some of these closures for anybody who's trying to plan their day. Again, we are here for you, so if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. We have a full team hard at work. Our entire Atlanta News First reporters all out in the field working hard, talking to these community members, getting updates from officials minute by minute, as well as our weather team here working to track those models and get any updates for different areas updated out to you in our Atlanta News First app, as well as our First Alert app. That app is actually pretty cool. I've checked it out myself, especially around this time. It gives you a better picture of your specific area and how you should respond to the weather. So if you live, let's say, just outside of Atlanta, it will give you a specific outlook hour by hour of your location and let you know what's coming and when the clear times are expected to be. So let's talk a little bit about closures. I'm going to see if I can pull up this for you. Right now, the biggest thing, Six Flags over Georgia, of course, closed due to the weather. Not a great time to be outside, so they have shut that down. The Zoo of Atlanta as well closed for this weather. GDOT has already closed express lanes I-75 and I-85. So keep in mind those express lanes are closed at this time. I know that's going to impact some travelers who are still planning to hit the road. The word right now is just practice precautions. I actually have a few tips here for my drivers out there that I want to get into here for a moment. If you're still planning on hitting the road, maybe you're debating it right now and trying to get a better idea of whether this is a good day to go or if you should be delaying your travels, here is some tips for you to use. You want to pack an emergency roadside kit, whether you're leaving today or whether you're leaving tomorrow. If you're going to be in the elements, you want to be prepared. So a flashlight, ice scraper, jumper cables, flares, medicines, things like that. Our Atlanta News First team got de-icing material as well for our teams that were out on the road, as well as a kitty litter. That could also help your tires in an event that you get stuck. So that right there, pulling out my other graphic for you, snow or ice, especially ice, I feel like is going to be that issue for us in Atlanta. That is going to have a major impact. If you do find yourself sliding, I did a couple days ago actually before this weather, keep in mind that the best advice is to straighten your wheel and accelerate slowly. You can also add sand, again, that kitty litter that I mentioned, to add traction underneath your wheels and avoid the spinning tires.
Your battery.
It's one of the first things you should check as cold weather rolls in.
It's cold and you go in there to start that vehicle, that's the last time you want to be dealing with that and finding out, oh, I need a battery.
And not far from the battery.
This is going to be where your coolant is.
Slowly and carefully check for proper coolant levels.
Sometimes people can water down the coolant too much, and that's going to make it susceptible to freezing.
Car mechanic Jaime Canona says taking a safe car on the road is always important, but you definitely don't want to deal with issues in below freezing temps. It's that type of weather that usually affects tires too, maybe causing them to lose air. So look for this sticker near your driver door to see just how much air your tires need.
The front and the back should be at 35 psi. Usually in cold weather, I'm going to put that at 37 because the cold weather is going to fluctuate with the air pressure inside.
Now that you've focused on checking under the hood and all four wheels, don't forget to fill up your tank. Never let it get below a quarter tank. No one likes filling their tank when it's freezing, so hit the gas station before Friday morning. Canona says running out of gas in the cold isn't fun, but even if you do everything right, there are some things you can't control. And if you do end up stranded for any reason, make sure you have extra warm clothing and blankets for everyone in the car, just in case.
You know, you're not stranded without any options.
Yeah, that advice right there, you're not stranded without any option. Hey, here's another pro tip for you. What to do if you experience a traffic signal blackout. Now, if there is a traffic signal that isn't working in your area, primarily due to a power failure, I think we were talking about that for some time, the amount of people experiencing power outages, that can also impact traffic lights. Remember, you can stop at an intersection and then proceed when you know other turning and approaching vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians have also stopped. A blackout traffic signal works the same as a four-way stop intersection. Now, I know a lot of you probably have your own driver tips, especially if you've already maybe hit the road throughout today. Drop them in the comments below. We can help each other out. For everybody who is watching this, if you have some other tips that we might have not touched upon, let us know. We'll mention them. I'm going to read some more comments here. Sweet Life of Honey saying, love the snow, everyone drive safe. Yes, couldn't emphasize that more. Please drive safe. I know the overall recommendation is just don't be on the road at this time, but if you are going to be on the road, again, pack that emergency kit, watch out for these traffic signal blackouts. And another tip actually, pack some water. If you are gonna be hitting the road, especially for a long period of time, and you risk the chance of possibly experiencing some issues, getting stuck, make sure you have water and some snacks with you. Also, make sure you have your insurance cards and other information for emergency services, you know, AAA, things like that, in case you do find yourself in a situation. Let's get back to some of these closures. I know somebody was asking about, I'm going to read this comment here. Someone was asking about what exactly is closed. We have on our website here a full list of the major events, areas that are experiencing these closures. I'm going to read them to you here. So we have Zoo Atlanta, University of Georgia, of course, closed, Six Flags, but also GDOT closing express lanes 175 and 185 due to this weather. Again, Atlanta Botanical Garden, Stone Mountain Park, all of those places closed right now. Cobb County Transit, Gwinnett County Transit. More information from City of Atlanta as well, just saying that, hey, we will also be closed through today at least, and as well as City Hall being closed for the entirety of the week until December 26th. So you can expect, the weekend, closed for the entirety of the weekend until December 26th. A lot of those public services, both already anticipating being closed for the holidays, but now closing a little early to get their staff that day off, just to stay at home, be off the roadways. Gwinnett County adding to that, as well as other healthcare systems. Just all of that information, if you know of another closure that we might have not added to this list, let us know. We will get that information out to the public. But again, expect closures if you are headed out anywhere. I know that I just touched upon the roadways being something that you'll need to be careful on, but also just check if where you are headed, your location is even open today. I know that the expectation is that a lot of businesses are going to be closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, but now with this weather today, we're also anticipating early closures for some businesses. So call ahead, just make sure that if you're going to hit the road, that at least the destination you're getting to is one that is open. All right, so let's talk a little bit more for my travelers. I know I've addressed my drivers a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about flights. If you were with us earlier at around 11 a.m., about 30 minutes ago, we talked to ATL spokesperson Andy Gobeil. He gave us a really great rundown of when you should arrive at the airport, everything that you should plan before you even go that way, and how you should respond to this weather, especially as you are navigating your way through ATL. We are actually going to talk to our Madeline Montgomery here in a moment. We're going to work on connecting with her, but want to take this moment to direct you to this map. FlightAware is a great map that you can get an idea of the flight impacts, where flights are going out to, which ones have been delayed, canceled. That's something that we've been following for the most part. From talking with Andy, he's mentioned that they are rapidly responding and they're not even seeing lines at this point. So we'll continue to monitor that. Our field team is also at the airport, so we'll be checking in with them closer to the afternoon time. But just so that you know, we do also have more information on our website that you can go to get a better idea of flight impacts and travel related measures that are being taken. I'm going to take a minute just to connect with our Madeline Montgomery, make sure that we are hearing her all right, and we will join back here in about 1 minute checking in with Madeline.
Can you hear me?
All right, Madeline, I can hear you all right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Awesome. So you have been, much like Bridget, we just spoke to Bridget, in the elements throughout today. I gotta ask, how are you feeling out there? I know it's cold.
I can't feel my pinky. Like you, Maria, I came from a much warmer location before Atlanta. I was living in South Florida. I know you were from Hawaii, and it got to like maybe 65 during the winter, so this is definitely a different feeling, but it's at least sunny outside, so we have that going for us.
Yeah, certainly. I was just saying on this live stream that 60 degrees is when I used to pull out all of my layers of clothing and complain about the weather, but now this is a whole different situation. So I know throughout the morning you were at Hartsfield covering the travel impacts. Looks like you are now looking more locally at the impacts felt by some homeowners here.
That's right, Maria. So right now we're in Newnan on St. Clair Street, and I'm with photojournalist Sante, and we are at a house that got pretty taken out by a tree. So an oak tree fell down, and on its way down, it hit another tree, knocking off a branch from another tree. So the tree hit the house. A branch from another tree hit this gorgeous BMW convertible. So it is pretty much totaled over here, and the house is damaged, but not horribly. And thankfully somebody who drove by was telling us that the people who live here were not home when this happened, and we're just going to kind of walk around and show you some of the damage. I mean, looking at the car, it is just a tragedy because you can tell this is a nice vintage BMW, and the front is just completely crushed by this huge oak branch. And then looking up at the house, from one side of the house you wouldn't even know that there was damage, but then from this side you can see clearly that the back corner of the house was hit by this big old oak tree, and a tree removal guy actually came by real quick while we were out here waiting to talk to you, and he was telling us that, you know, it's just this wind, and with these old trees a lot of times you can't tell, but the roots just aren't as deep as they once were, and so you see situations like this when we have wind as strong as our first alert meteorologists have been telling us about.
Yeah, certainly. I know that some people on our end have been asking, you know, about response times. Have you seen some crews out there already? And have you gotten to talk to these homeowners about, you know, how quickly they were able to get out to them?
So we have definitely seen police out on the roadways. We drove from Midtown, where the station is, all the way over to the airport and then over here to Newnan. And so we've been all over the roads today, and we've seen a pretty strong police presence out there. As far as this home, no one was home at the time this happened, so I'm not even sure if 911 is called or not, just because no one was hurt in this. And the street is pretty quiet in general. Their power is on, and it doesn't really look like the tree hit any power lines other than the one that connects to the house. So it doesn't seem like GDOT would have had to be called. But with the owners not here, we're not able to ask them that specific question, because I'm pretty curious about that myself.
Yeah, we talk about the dangers of being outside. Something that, seeing this tree down has me thinking is, we've been told by officials, once you lose power or you find yourself that your house is no longer safe to stay in, that you need to move to find warmth. Has that been the case for these homeowners? I mean, we talk about how cold it is outside, and if you don't have proper layering on, it's not a good place to continue to be out.
Yeah, no, it really does seem like that. The friend that briefly came by was telling us that they weren't home when this happened, thankfully, and have somewhere else to be right now, to where they are not having to be in this house, because it is cold even if you're inside. And I know my bonus room at my house, just the airflow and the ventilation and everything isn't as good in there. And even with the heat on in the rest of the house, that room is frigid. And so imagine being in a whole home with no heat at all. You really need to be able to find somewhere safe and warm to go. I mean, just getting into our car after we've been at the airport the whole time this morning, and like everything in the car was cold. All of my clothes were cold that were in the car. I didn't sadly have a water bottle to be able to tell you if it froze or not, but the temperatures dropped really quick, and anything without heat, without power, is feeling those effects.
Yeah, we were talking to our reporter Megan Packer. I believe she was in DeKalb. We actually got to see some of those crews, going up, trying to get that tree moved off of the house and clear that area. I imagine that's the case across North Georgia. I mean, this isn't just a few houses being impacted. This is a lot of damage that different people in different communities are seeing. I want to take this time. I know you were at the airport earlier. We had a few questions about travel. What were the lines looking like during your time there?
There were so many people, and Maria, I am at the airport often for news stories for Atlanta News First, and so I can say from experience it is more crowded than I've seen it. We were kind of elbowing our way through to get into the airport to be able to set up for live shots, and so it's definitely crowded, but the TSA lines were still moving really quickly. And we had a chance to speak with the spokesperson from the airport, and he was telling us that what happens to make that all possible is that they talk to the airlines, so they know how many people are flying, which it was 3 million across the United States today, and Atlanta's the busiest airport in the world, so you can imagine a lot of those people were coming through there. So they know how many people are coming through, and they staff accordingly. Everything from the people who work at the airport and redirect folks to which security line is going to be faster, to how many TSA agents are there to screen people, to even how many vendors. He was telling me, since there's so many cancellations and delays across the country where people, maybe they got through TSA and all of a sudden my flight's not going for another 5 hours. They have 24/7 for this week anyways, concessions at the airport, where a lot of times things will close around midnight or so. They were making sure that there were food and beverage options at all of the different concourses, because they are anticipating people to just kind of be stuck and camping out there, and so they want to make sure that those folks are taken care of, and so they staffed accordingly for that.
And I know, I imagine between the airport and where you are now, you've had some time to experience those roadways. How was that for you guys?
Thankfully, a lot of people are following the instructions and the recommendations by our first alert meteorologist, and people aren't on the road. I mean, we can just show you where we are now. We're not seeing a lot of people out here, and we really didn't see a lot of ice, thankfully, because there just wasn't a ton of moisture, but we did see different patches of ice. So the water that is on the road was definitely freezing. And yesterday we actually spent the day in our first alert tracker, which we have over here, and we were following those brining trucks with GDOT who were coating the roads with that salt solution to make sure that the ice wasn't sticking from the moisture that we saw overnight. And so thankfully the roads are looking safe. And as I was telling you earlier, there were a lot of police as far as we saw. So So first responders were clearly ready to, go out to anyone who may hit an icy patch or just run into trouble in general. Also, I just want to share with you that poor photojournalist Sante's fingers are literally freezing right now. He's like unable to hold the camera. He's just kind of like propping it like this. So if you want to know what it's like out here, it's like that. We cannot feel our fingers.
I can only imagine, and I want to get you guys back to a warm place. So just one final question for you. As you guys are braving these elements and standing outside, we are echoing the words of officials, asking people to stay indoors today. Any final thoughts from just this coverage that we've been doing throughout the week?
Yeah, I think people just need to be considerate of when you're going out. That's requiring other people to go out. So we just ran into downtown and, there were a lot of people out and about in the downtown area in Newnan, and that means that these folks are having to stay late at the restaurant that they work at, or means first responders are having to be out on the road in case people get into accidents and, just different people because of their jobs. GDOT, for example, if you're out on the roads and it's dangerous and something happens, that means that these people are going to have to be working maybe later hours than they wanted on a holiday weekend to make sure you're okay. So when you're staying home, you're not only keeping yourself safe, but you're keeping others safe and just making them happy because, it's Christmas time. People just want to be home with their families, or at least warm, because it is not that outside.
Yeah, Madeline, thank you so much for adding that point. You gotta think about other people's families and just getting ready for Christmas. We all just want to make it to out of this cold and to those holidays, spending time with our family. Thank you so much. Please, you and Sante, get back into some warm temperatures, back in the vehicle. Hopefully, you guys can warm up pretty soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I did actually get some footage for you guys. I want to take a look around the country, showing you a better picture of what the temperatures and the climate is looking like elsewhere. So this is actually out of Buffalo. Take a look at that. I know that we've been talking about Atlanta and the historic temperatures that we're seeing, the wind chills. I mean, it is not a good time to be outside, but also take a look at what's happening in Buffalo. That is the situation. They've been talking about blizzards, both higher up north and in the Midwest, and Buffalo just experiencing that. You can clearly see no cars on the road, probably for good reason. Oh, and I spoke too soon. One car on the road, and a UPS truck. See, as soon as I say something, I'm watching this for the first time with you guys, but those cars, nevertheless, moving slowly through. You can see them exercising caution, not going as fast as you could normally expect them to move on the road. And play it one more time for you guys. And then look, you can almost see the wind as it's moving and blowing some of that snow. I'm certainly thankful that I'm indoors right now, just looking at that picture again out of Buffalo. Hopefully some of their residents also taking those precautions, cranking up their heat, staying indoors throughout today. Taking you back out to our Atlanta News First coverage, the impacts that we've been following from this weather. If you have any questions, maybe sharing your own experiences with the weather so far today, let us know. The biggest thing today has been power outages and downed trees. A lot of homes, a lot of roadways experiencing those. We've been putting out information around the clock, working with our weather team as well as our field crews to get that information out to you, keeping them out of the cold as much as possible, but also trying to get those updates from the ground. So let's just recap a moment. Georgia Power actually sent us some information earlier. I'm going to reiterate them saying that they are working around the clock to get power restored, and not just because when your power goes out it's uncomfortable. At this time it is also a danger, a possible danger for you. You talk about losing power, that also means losing heat, and the words from officials that we've heard throughout the week is if you lose heat and you cannot stay in your house for a long period of time. You have to find a warming center. You have to find a place that you can seek that warmth and get power back. The good news is Georgia Power said that they have already restored 120,000 customers power for 120,000 customers. I'm going to pull up this note I also got from our assignment desk. They've been working to restore power for the last 12 hours, just seeing the impacts of severe high winds and extreme low temperatures, those two things not going well together. So that is something that they are currently responding to. They said primarily these power outages have happened in the North Georgia area. I'm going to pull up this map for you so you can take a look. This is where those power outages have taken place and are being restored. This is a live map for you. You can see all the way in Savannah, Valdosta, all of these areas experiencing power issues, Augusta as well. But taking a look at Atlanta, you can see some of the communities that are experiencing these power outages. These yellow markers meaning as much as 1,000 people are without power actively. We have been told from Georgia Power that their teams are working around the clock and that they have power generation plants that are helping ensure that they can meet this increased demand. So that is what they are currently monitoring, those generators providing more energy so that they can get power restored as much as possible. And again, most of the power outage that we've seen in the northern Georgia area, I'm going to zoom out here so you can take a look better, but they've already been able to restore about 120,000 areas, customers' power, 120,000 reports of loss of power. That has all been restored. So good news there. Taking you through a few tips that you can keep in mind as you're navigating today. I know a lot of you were planning probably to get off of work and head out or go to your destination for the weekend. I know it's a holiday weekend, a lot of people possibly visiting some family members, some friends, some loved ones. If you are going to be on the roadways, please keep in mind that we are continuing to experience issues on the roadways, primarily in the bridges and overpass area. That is where you can expect some of those black ice that happened earlier this morning. Not a significant amount, as we were told from our traffic anchor and meteorologist, Courtney Jacobazi, but enough to make you want to be prepared in the event that you are faced with weather road conditions. So here's our first tip. If you are headed out, make sure you're packing some water, a snack. In the event that you are getting stuck in the road or in traffic, you might want to have that handy for you. And have an emergency kit. You should actually always have one. This is just a great time to maybe make that added effort. You don't necessarily want to go to the store and start putting this together right now, but if you are headed out, you might want to have this handy. A flashlight, ice scraper, jumper cables, flares, medicines. Am I missing anything? Drop that in the comments if I am. We actually gave our Atlanta News First crews de-icer and other materials that they might need throughout their day out in the field today. So some of these items are going to be essential for you if you do find yourself in an unfortunate road condition, as well as some other tips for you if you are stuck in snow or here in Atlanta in ice. You're going to want to straighten your wheel and accelerate slowly. You can also add sand, cat litter, other items that will help under the wheels to help you avoid spinning your tires. So that is always good advice, something that you can plan out before you really do go and hit the roadways, especially if you're taking a long trip. Some final advice, what you should do if you find yourself faced with a traffic signal blackout. We talk about loss of power. That has been the case since as early as 2 o'clock this morning. Traffic signal blackouts are not an exception. They are also vulnerable to these power outages. So if you do find yourself with a traffic signal blackout, the first thing you need to do is treat that intersection as if it is a four-way stop. So watch for vehicles, bicycles, pedestrians especially, and make sure that you're coming to a full stop, assessing all sides, and then proceeding as if you were interacting with a four-way stop. So some good tips right there. Some other tips to prepare your car. You can also just make sure that your engine and everything is looking good before you take that road trip.
Here's your battery.
It's one of the first things you should check as cold weather rolls in.
It's cold and you go in there to start that vehicle, That's the last time you want to be dealing with that and finding out, oh, I need a battery.
And not far from the battery.
This is going to be where your coolant is.
Slowly and carefully check for proper coolant levels.
Sometimes people can water down the coolant too much, and that's going to make it susceptible to freezing.
Car mechanic Jaime Canona says taking a safe car on the road is always important, but you definitely don't want to deal with issues in below freezing temps. It's that type of weather that usually affects tires too, maybe causing them to lose air. So look for this sticker near your driver door to see just how much air your tires need.
The front and the back should be at 35 psi. Usually in cold weather, I'm going to put that at 37 because the cold weather is going to fluctuate with the air pressure inside.
Now that you've focused on checking under the hood and all four wheels, don't forget to fill up your tank. Never let it get below a quarter tank. No one likes filling their tank when it's freezing, so hit the gas station before Friday morning. Canona says running out of gas in the cold isn't fun, but even if you do everything right, there are some things you can't control. And if you do end up stranded for any reason, make sure you have extra warm clothing and blankets for everyone in the car, just in case.
You know, you're not stranded without any options.
Yeah, an important point there. And just in case you needed a reminder, here's a look out of Memphis of the cars that are dealing with weather. You can see just some of that impact, clear as day on the roadway, a traffic accident, things like this that can impact you. I know we're down in Atlanta, or I should say we're in Atlanta, but we are also monitoring the roadways, and you can easily find yourself in a situation. So make sure you're proceeding carefully and that you are staying prepared. Those tips that I just mentioned, they will be on our website if you needed just a one-stop shop for things you should check off your list as you're navigating the roadways. Yeah, just a mess. Don't let yourself be in that situation. That is live picture from today out of Memphis. So just playing to you that again, those vehicles navigating the roadways, clearly having a challenging time. A big way that you can prevent that again is adding traction. Sand or cat litter under your tires is a great way to do that. So make sure that you are monitoring the roadways, taking a look at the map, try to plan out what direction you're headed and check the weather in those spots, especially if you're headed out for a long trip. Safest thing to do is to wait at this weather out, but if you are already set on a path to head out, making sure that you know this is a real possibility, so you want to stay prepared. All right, I want to get you out to some new information we have. Part of why we wanted to jump on this live stream is to monitor any and all new updates and bring them to you as soon as we hear about them. This is directly from East Point Power Department. They have scheduled for the power to be out for the next 30 to 45 minutes in the Bonner Road, Farley Court, and Farley Street areas. So East Point, if you have anybody who lives there, let them know Bonner Road, Farley Court, and Farley Street are going to experience power outages. Contractors are working on installing a new pole to run services to reconnect the area. Power is estimated to be out for about 30 to 45 minutes, but they've told us no longer than 45 minutes. Again, it crawls up to the time where you can start experiencing frostbite. So if you are somebody who does not know if you have proper layering or if you have what you need in your house in the event that power goes out, you're going to want to find some warming centers in your area right now. So again, some of those signs of hypothermia I'm going to bring up to you here: confusion, shivering, difficulty speaking, sleepiness, and stiff muscles. I know that we all say we get kind of sleepy in the cold. Make sure that it is not a sign of hypothermia or frostbite. A big tip there is to watch out for these signs. Some other things that you can do is just layer up and charge your devices. Bring your pets inside at this time. If it is too cold for you, it is too cold for them. That is really the advice that we've been getting time and time again. If you have any pets that have been outdoors, hopefully they're inside by now. But if you at this time, if you have a pet that's been hanging out in the yard for some time, bring them in. They're going to want to be inside for most of today. Again, Some of these warming centers are on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. We have full resources there. Those are going to be important for those communities like East Point who are losing power. I'm going to try to bring up that full list for you where you can find these warming centers. But the best way to really locate them is to have the Atlanta News First app that goes directly to your phone, so you can have a one-stop shop on all the resources you're going to need throughout today. So I'm going to find those warming centers for you, and we will go down that list. East Point, I want you to pay attention to this one, because if you are in that area, Bonner Road, Farley Court, Farley Street, you are going to have no power for at least 30 to 45 minutes. They have told us, the East Point Power Department has told us that they are not expecting power to remain out longer than 45 minutes. They just need that window of time to install a new pole and reconnect services. All right, so I was able to pull up those warming centers for you. This is closer to where we can expect warming centers provided for you. I'm going to try to lost the article. I'm going to try to pull that back up for you. Again, I'm just navigating the atlantanewsfirst.com website. It's a fantastic resource for finding what you need and the information about what areas are experiencing these temperature drops, as well as other spots that you can seek out warming centers. That is all on our website. All right, I was able to pull it up here. So some of the warming centers that you can find, DeKalb Fire Station 6. That is on Flat Shoals Road. I'm going to read this off of this note I have here. Salvation Army on Marietta Street, that they have a warming center open. The City of Atlanta Overflow Shelter as well, and Solomon's Temple. So many more, all of that on our website. Right now, let's get you over to our Atlanta News First newscast at 12. Check in with our field teams out and get you a better idea of the impacts we're continuing to see. You can join us back here on Atlanta News First Plus starting at 12:30.